I've worked in multiple countries. This business has taken me to a mile underground in a salt mine in Ireland. I've jumped out of an airplane at 14,000 feet for this business. I've done all kinds of things that there's no way. There's just no way I would ever have an opportunity to do. And one of the coolest things I probably would say I like the most is I've literally worked with multimillionaire business people, athletes, and then I've also worked in, I had a shoot in the zip code it's actually in Wisconsin that has the highest incarceration rate in the United States. I had a multi-day shoot there. We were shooting in the evenings. So the range of people that you get to meet and work with, and just the different perspectives of life that you get to see, that is the thing that I say I have enjoyed absolutely the most.
Hi there. Welcome to the Connecting KC podcast. I'm Rachel Kilmer, also known as Rach the Realtor on the internet, where I love, connecting all things KC. I'm a metro area real estate agent, retired sports reporter, and mom, and probably too old to call myself a TikToker, but honestly, that's how we got here. You can learn more at www.rachtherealtorkc.com. But this show is all about introducing you to all of the movers and shakers, interesting people, heartfelt stories, and funny quirks that make this vibrant community home. So let's get right to it with today's episode of Connecting KC. Welcome into a special episode of Connecting Kansas City, where I am so honored to be joined by Shaun Cloud. He is a multi-award-winning director of photography and still photographer with an eye for detail and a heart for making clients happy. He has spent the past 25 years creating content, which creating content I feel like hasn't even been a phrase for 25 years, but he's been doing it for many network and cable television shows, TV commercials, Fortune 500 companies, as well as small to medium-sized businesses. His most recent endeavor includes social media management and content creation for local Kansas City-based business owners that are too busy to manage their own social media marketing strategy. Shaun, thank you for being here today.
Hey, thank you. You're welcome. I appreciate you having me.
Yeah, 25 years in this industry, you've seen a lot of change. What did day one look like for you versus now in the year 2020?
Well, it's crazy because day one was, there wasn't really a day one. I just sort of ended up here somehow. And so, but it has definitely changed, and it continues to change. To be in this business really means you've got to be the kind of person who can embrace change, because it's constantly evolving and clients' needs evolve. Technology is certainly evolving. And so it doesn't look anything like it used to.
Yeah, it's so crazy. And I was telling you before we started recording, I was a sports reporter early in my career, and I only did that for 6 years. But even I remember from year 1 to year 6, different cameras, different live backpacks, different social media, you really do. And especially as a small business owner, that none of that equipment's cheap. How do you stay ahead of the curve and make sure you're purchasing the right equipment at the right time, and not buying remember when the Blu-rays were going to be everything and then they weren't? How do you stay on top of that?
That is a good question. The thing is, you don't want to overextend yourself ever. Okay, so that would be my first bit of advice: is make sure you kind of have a good pulse on things, kind of a pulse on how your business is going, and then sort of anticipate those needs. Talk to other people who are doing it, do your research, and get the things that you absolutely need. In video production, there's all kinds of tools, there's all kinds of really amazing, awesome gadgets, but you got to really dial in on the things that will move the needle the most and focus on those. And then, hey, if it happens, business is going well and you've got some money left over to go ahead and purchase some of those gadgets and other things that make your job easier, then you can do that. But yeah, it's, especially nowadays, I think it's even harder because numbers are lower in terms of what clients are kind of expecting to pay or willing to pay. So you got to really be careful that you manage your budget really well and very closely.
I've seen that a lot, especially in the social media world. I think because it's free to consume, people think it should be free to make. And I know I've heard a lot of social media managers talking about the experience of talking to clients about their expectations of how much this costs. Has that been a real challenge for you when someone is coming to you having never paid for any production before?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. I mean, I've literally had people call me and say, they need a video completely shot, edited, produced for a couple $100s, and that is the first sign that they have absolutely no idea what they're talking about. So, because it's expensive, and there's a reason it's expensive, and that reason is hard to get across to people, but the general thought and feeling now is that video production is easy, and it's not. It actually, video production, I mean, it consumes your life. It's not a 9 to 5 kind of job. It literally takes, I mean, I've been doing this a long time. I'm good at what I do. I feel like I'm efficient at what I do, but I will still spend almost every hour of the day that I'm up, I'm working on something. And that includes weekends, evenings. So it's really a lot harder to communicate an idea, a concept, to get a hook. All those things that make a really good video do take a lot of time. And so that's why it costs. Video people, video production crew, we put a lot into what we do. And that's why it's as expensive as it is.
Do you do more video than still photography?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm a lot more, still photography has kind of come and gone. It's never gone, but I've done more or less at different times in my career. And now, video, now that we're kind of in this social media world that we live in, and obviously video just kills stills in the social media world. And so my business is definitely primarily video. I mean, I still do stills, but those numbers have dropped quite a bit. So I have a lot more emphasis on video nowadays.
So how did you get into this? Like, did you have any professional training in video, or did someone hand you a camera and say, figure it out?
So, yeah, awesome story. My dad actually is one who was my first inspiration. He came home one day. I was probably 20, 21 years old, and he had gotten picked up a 35 millimeter SLR camera at a garage sale, obviously used and very old. And he said, "Hey, check this out. I got this cool camera at a garage sale." And I don't know. I took it. I never gave it back. I fell in love instantly. It had a 50 millimeter lens on it. I mean, I literally I just slept with the thing. I just started shooting everything. And of course that was film, right? And so everything I shot, I was spending money, but it was worth it to me just because I found this thing I loved so much. And ultimately that everything kind of went from there. I started looking at what would it take to start a photography business. I didn't have any money, so I couldn't start a photography business at the time, but the love was certainly there. And so I just kept looking for ways to get there. And so for me, those doors kind of just gradually opened up, and then I made a career out of it. I even in those early days, I didn't know where I was going. I really didn't know. I just knew I liked photography. And that was enough to keep me, keep the drive alive. And I just sort of found my way as I went along. I found things I liked, some things maybe I didn't like, and here I am today. So, but it all started with just my dad handed me that 35 millimeter SLR that he bought at a garage sale.
Yeah, that was so cool. And did you work for other companies along the way then? And how did you get to the point where you were like, okay, I'm ready to go out on my own now?
So I actually, at that time, I worked at DST, which is now SS&C. But at the time, I was in their corporate communications. Well, I wasn't in the corporate communications department yet. I was in another department, but I told my department I wanted to move into corporate communications because I thought that would maybe be an entryway into photography, which to my surprise, I had never considered video, but I got in that department and realized that, oh, wow, I got exposed to video and had never even considered that whatsoever. And so, but that kind of just opened that door. I ultimately left there because I didn't like the 9 to 5 corporate thing. I loved what I was doing with video and photography while I was there. And I loved it so much, I kind of drove them crazy. And some of the things I asked for in terms of equipment and and some things like that. And so I was kind of wanting to move faster than they were moving. And so I actually left there, went freelance, didn't know a soul in the freelance market. But you know what? I just kept driving. I introduced myself to people, ultimately worked freelance for about a year and a half, and then got asked by a local production company to go on staff with them. And so I did that because it was a good opportunity for me to get back behind the camera lens, because I freelance, I wasn't shooting. I was in the camera department as a film loader and doing some AC work. But it allowed me to get back behind the lens. And then I got picked up from another production company from there. And then at that point, 9/11 happened, completely, shook the economy. And ultimately, I wasn't let go, but a lot of people in my production company were let go. And ultimately, I decided to leave because I felt like my time was probably coming, and I wanted to control my own destiny. So I went ahead and left on my own, but went freelance at that point, and then I've been freelance ever since. So that's since 2001, I think. So yeah, awesome. Yeah.
I didn't know. So I shot an episode of House Hunters.
Yes.
And the crew was all patchwork together from across the country. And I had never thought about that. Like, this is a major, major show. And the audio guys from Denver, we had one photographer from Kansas City, but everyone else was from all over the country.
Right.
Have you been a part of that world where you're traveling?
Oh my goodness. Oh yeah. And you know what's the cool thing is you can take a crew from all over, put them on set, and we just, like, everybody just falls right into place. So yeah, so it's an amazing experience. And yeah, so I mean, the bulk of my career has been that way, quite frankly. I've worked, it's very much a team sport. I call video production as a team sport. Okay. I know there's some kind of solopreneurs and some people who kind of do kind of one-man band, as they say. But and that's a hard gig. It really is a team sport. But man, just bringing the crew together, and then all of a sudden everyone just kind of works together. We fulfill our own roles, support each other, across the table as well. Because when you're working on a project, everybody has the same goal in mind. It's to make that show or whatever it may be as good as it possibly can be. And everybody has a part in that. So yeah, so that's one thing I really like about the business, is that camaraderie and just the teamwork that it takes to make something happen.
It does. It's very unique. And I think it's kind of because of the sheer amount of time you suddenly you're thrust together, and it's like, okay, you have a 12-hour day. We're going to be together for 12 hours. We're going to bond. We're going to figure this out. So what's your favorite story? Have you done anything like any Discovery Channel shows, or traveled somewhere really exotic? What's your favorite shoot you've done?
Well, I will tell you that the call that I'll never forget is the call that I had a client that was on the East Coast, and they called me. It was actually early in the morning, and they actually woke me up. But, when your phone rings and it's a freelance call, you take it no matter what's going on. And so they woke me up. I tried to sound like I was wide awake, and they said, "Hey, so we have this shoot in Hawaii. We just wanted to see if you're available." And I mean, that was a call I will never forget, because I'd never been to Hawaii, always wanted to go. And so that was absolutely amazing. But, I've worked in multiple countries. This business has taken me to a mile underground in a salt mine in Ireland. I've jumped out of an airplane at 14,000 feet for this business. I've done all kinds of things that there's no way. There's just no way I would ever have an opportunity to do. And one of the coolest things I probably would say I like the most is I've literally worked with multimillionaire business people, athletes, and then I've also worked in, I had a shoot in the zip code it's actually in Wisconsin, that has the highest incarceration rate in the United States. I had a multi-day shoot there. We were shooting in the evenings. So the range of people that you get to meet and work with, and just the different perspectives of life that you get to see, that is the thing that I say I have enjoyed absolutely the most.
Here locally, or when you're taking your own clients' calls to put together shoots for them, how much say do you have in what they're going to shoot? Do they ever want to shoot something that you're like, are you sure about that? Maybe we should do something else. Like, how much do you push back with the kind of...
Yeah. So that does, that's a good question because it depends on the client. So some of my clients are very seasoned in video production, and so they know what they want and need. I have other clients who have never done any video production. And so obviously with those, it's a lot more, my role, I come in as the expert. Now I rely on them for content. I need them to give me information about their business, their audience, what their objectives are. And then I help them understand, from a video perspective, what we can do to meet those objectives, to reach that audience and so forth. So, I'm on all sides of that. Sometimes, like I said, I get a call and the producer knows exactly what they need and they just communicate that to me. But other times I'm really running the show, quite frankly. And so I just kind of figure out what my clients' needs are and I just kind of meet them at that point.
Do you have a preference of like short form social media content, long form, like what's your favorite style of content to create?
Wow, that's another really good question. Stylistically, I will say, it's hard to in 10 seconds tell a story. And so I definitely, even if it comes to social media content, I like having, I just cut a video this morning that was 45 seconds. Well, I had 45 seconds. In the social media world, that feels like an eternity, right? And so, but it was enough time for me to kind of set the stage and kind of let that story develop just a little bit and then boom, have a payoff at the end. So, so that's what I like. I do like story. So I do like more time to try to develop that. I actually, in my career, I actually did shoot a full-length feature several years ago. So that was a different experience. And I've done several short films throughout my career, but a lot of it's been TV stuff, for Discovery or HGTV or whatever, 30-minute shows, maybe 60-minute shows. So so definitely I've got a good mix because there's times when I'm doing a 5-second commercial spot, right? So everything in between, but I definitely prefer that longer format where I do have enough time to tell a story.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. Okay, last couple questions I ask everyone that comes on the show. First one is, what is a great meal that you've had recently out and about in Kansas City?
So I have to give a shout out to Gates, because Gates, when people come into town, I have a lot of crew that come into town, producers, and they want to know like the best barbecue in town. And I know it's highly debatable, but I'm putting my stake in the ground with Gates. I love the atmosphere there. I love the vibe. I love the people. And of course I love the food. So Gates is definitely at the top of my list in Kansas City. But I have a little place that my wife and I enjoy. It's KC Sushi. It's up north. Doesn't look like much from the outside, but it's great on the inside. They have a spicy crab salad that's amazing. That's our favorite thing to get there. So besides the sushi, of course, but anyway, so those would be my two go-tos for sure.
Mm-hmm. Good choices. Yeah, I also have someone in front of town, Gates, where I also go, because there's other ones that are great, but it's the perfect combination of atmosphere and food for sure. 100%.
100%.
You want to leave with your clothes smelling like meat,
Exactly.
All right. Last question I ask everyone is, where can people find you if they're interested in booking you for a production? If they want to know more about your story, where can they connect with you? Your website, social media, all that good stuff.
Yeah, sure. Well, so I'm on Instagram as Shaun Cloud and Scene2, but my website is scene2cameracrew.com. And that really gives you, obviously I like Instagram. It shows a little bit of my work, but the website definitely tells my story and full capabilities, and there's a lot of samples there, and so I would definitely recommend my website first and foremost. So, but yeah, that'd be amazing. I'm being a freelancer, you're always looking for work, and so I am definitely open for business and would appreciate anybody making contact. It'd be amazing.
Love that. Well, we'll talk offline about my next project that I'm going to put you to work on.
Okay.
All right. Well, Shaun, thank you for taking the time to be here today. And guys, thanks for listening. We'll see you next time. Bye.